my wife texted. I'll be late, helping my sister. When she came home, I was having breakfast with her sister. I smirked. Oh, done with your boss already? It started like any other weeknight, the kind of Tuesday that feels like Monday's lazy cousin. I was halfway through microwaving leftover lasagna, trying to convince myself it still counted as home-cooked, when Claire appeared at the door with her tote bag slung over her shoulder and that trademark guilty smile she thought I hadn't noticed yet. You know the one. Too wide, too polished, like it had been rehearsed in front of a mirror. I'll be late tonight, honey, she said, casually slipping her heels on like this was just another episode of our regular sitcom called Marriage, but with plot holes. My sister needs help with some home stuff. That was the third sister emergency in 10 days. Either her sister was building a pyramid, or I was being played in high definition. I paused the microwave, turned around, and gave her that polite husband smile. The one that says, sure, I believe you, but I also have Google Maps and common sense. Again, I asked, wow, your sister's house must be one drywall away from FEMA intervention. She gave a nervous little laugh. Oh, stop. She's just not handy with tools. Yeah, apparently neither are electricians, plumbers, or literally anyone who gets paid to fix things, I said, crossing my arms. But sure, send her my regards, and maybe call an actual electrician next time instead of a marketing executive. Claire laughed too loud, the kind of loud that makes dogs tilt their heads and neighbors peek through blinds. You're funny, she said, grabbing her keys and adjusting her hair like she was preparing for a photo shoot, not a home repair session. Not as funny as this story's about to get, I muttered under my breath. What was that? She asked. Nothing, I said with a grin. Just talking to myself, as married people do. She leaned in, kissed me on the cheek. Too quickly, too lightly, like I was a polite coworker she barely liked, and then left. Her perfume lingered behind her, hanging in the air like guilt in a glass bottle. Sweet, floral, and way too expensive for a night of hanging curtains. I stood there for a moment, staring at the closed door, and whispered to myself, helping your sister, huh? Yeah, helping her boss, maybe. Then I laughed, not because it was funny, but because sarcasm is cheaper than therapy. I tried to shake. The first time she said her sister needed help with her sink. The second time it was her curtains. The third time, she didn't even bother specifying. Just some home stuff. I finished my juice, set the glass down, and smirked. Home stuff. That's vague enough to include cheating. Then I laughed again because the absurdity of it all was just too much. I wasn't angry yet, just entertained. Like watching a bad crime show where you already know who the killer is, but you stick around because you want to see how dumb the detectives can get. When I finally went to bed, I noticed her side of the mattress was still perfectly made. The pillow untouched. And maybe it was the insomnia talking, but I swear the sheets smelled like perfume and irony. Around midnight, I heard her car pull in. I didn't get up. I stayed still, pretending to sleep. The door opened softly. Her heels clicked on the tile, and then stopped. She stood there for a moment, probably checking if I was asleep, then tiptoed to the bathroom. I heard the faint hum of her electric toothbrush, followed by the sound of her setting her tote down carefully, like she was hiding evidence instead of a purse. She slipped into bed quietly. Too quietly. That kind of quiet where guilt wears pajamas. Long night. I mumbled, eyes still closed. She froze. Oh, hey, you're awake? Barely. How's your sister? Exhausted, she said quickly. She's having a rough week. Yeah, so are you, I said. She hesitated, then kissed my shoulder. Go back to sleep, babe. And I did. Or at least, I faked it convincingly. But in my head, I was wide awake, staring at the back of my eyelids like they were a screen showing reruns of How to Spot a Liar in 4K. The next morning, she was all sunshine and small talk. She made coffee, hummed to herself, and asked me how my day looked. That's the thing about guilt. It makes people overcompensate. Pretty normal, I said, sipping my coffee. You? She shrugged. Another busy day? Nothing, I said. Just thinking. About what? I shrugged. How lucky your sister is to have someone who shows up every time there's a crisis. She laughed, brushing her hair. You're jealous. Oh no, I said, smiling. I'm just impressed. She smirked, kissed me goodnight, and turned off the light. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, I'm not the jealous husband. I'm the observant one. And this story? It's about to get real interesting. Then I rolled over, smiled in the dark, and mentally opened a new folder in my head. Project Sister Excuse. Phase 1. Data collection. Because if my wife wanted to run a cover story, I was about to become the editor-in-chief of her little fiction magazine. I've never been the jealous type. I'm the data type. Some guys catch feelings, me? I catch timestamps. Patterns. Repetition. Consistency. It's the same part of my brain that knows when a customer at the renovation shop is about to argue over the quote. So when my wife started giving sister excuses like they were prescription pills, I didn't rage. I analyzed. See, Claire wasn't slick. She was habitual. Her sister nights always fell on Thursdays. I know because Thursday used to be our order takeout and complain about our lives night. We'd watch something terrible on Netflix. She'd steal fries from my plate, and I'd pretend to be mad about it. Domestic bliss, right? Until suddenly, her sister's house became the most emotionally unstable building in town. The first Thursday, I bought her story. By the third, I started noticing the clues, subtle things. Different perfume, new lipstick shade, that faint sparkle in her eyes like she'd just been complimented by someone who wasn't me. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't some paranoid tinfoil hat husband. I was just noticing. You can't spend a decade renovating homes without learning how to see cracks before the walls collapse. And the cracks? Oh, they were showing. The clinic she worked at had an after-hours hangout thing every Thursday. Casual drinks after work, she'd called it once, before all the sister drama began. Now, apparently, those drinks had been replaced with curtain rods and leaky faucets. What a coincidence. So there I was Friday morning, sitting in the shop with my foreman, Marcus, sipping burnt coffee that could strip paint, when I said, "You ever get that feeling your wife's got a side gig as a magician?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. What? She pulling rabbits or disappearing acts? Disappearing acts, I said, swirling my coffee. Every Thursday. Says she's helping her sister. You know what her sister's last emergency was? Replacing shower curtains. He chuckled. Maybe she just likes being helpful. Oh, she's helpful. All right, I said. She's basically a volunteer firefighter for her sister's imaginary house problems. Marcus laughed so hard he almost spilled his mug. You gonna check it out? Maybe follow her. I leaned back, smirked. Not yet. I'm waiting for the season finale. Can't interrupt mid-plot twist. He pointed at me. That's how people end up on Dateline, man. Relax, I said. I'm not chasing her with night vision goggles. I'm collecting data. There's a difference. Marcus snorted. Oh, so it's like CSI, Suburbia? Exactly, I said. I'm the guy with the clipboard and emotional damage. That got another laugh out of him. But beneath the jokes, I meant every word. I wasn't ready to confront her. I needed proof. Numbers. Locations. Behavior changes. I was running an emotional audit. That evening, Claire texted me at 6:12 p.m., same as always. Sister needs me again. I'll be late. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard before I replied. Sure. Want me to pack a screwdriver or a lie detector? She didn't respond. Classic. By 9 p.m., I was at home, sitting in front of the TV, pretending to watch a home renovation show. Funny thing about watching other people fix houses while yours is metaphorically crumbling. It hits different. The host on TV was saying, always check for rot behind the walls before you repaint, and I muttered, yeah, wish I'd checked behind my wife's smile before I married her. That's when it hit me. This wasn't jealousy, it was recognition. You ever smell something so often it becomes familiar? That's what her perfume had become. It wasn't the scent itself, it was what it represented. Every time she walked out the door smelling like that, it meant I was getting lied to in HD. The next morning, I did what any reasonable man would do. I created a spreadsheet. Yeah, I know, laugh it up. But look, data doesn't lie. It was just columns and dates at first. Thursday, sister, return time, emotional tone. Then I started adding notes. Makeup level, perfume type, how loud she laughed when I made jokes. The trend was undeniable. Guilt makes people overly cheerful. I even gave the spreadsheet a name, the Sister Excuse Project. Marcus saw it a few days later on my laptop and nearly spit out his coffee. Bro, you made a Google sheet for this? Evidence-based living, I said. Better than therapy. He grinned. What's next? You gonna color code it? Already did, I said. Green for normal nights, red for suspicious ones. He just shook his head. You need Jesus? Or a camera? But that's the thing. I wasn't ready for confrontation. I needed clarity first. Thursday rolled around again. I kissed her goodbye, smiled like the world's calmest idiot, and watched her drive off in her white Honda. I gave it 10 minutes before muttering, "All right, Mark. Let's get scientific." I checked her location on the Family Tracker app. Yeah, the same one she insisted we keep for emergencies. It showed her car parked, not near her sister's place. Nope. She was at the intersection downtown where all the restaurants with dim lighting and live jazz bands exist. The kind of places people go to not talk about shower rods. I zoomed in. The location pin hovered suspiciously close to a spot called the Garden Loft. I'd been there once. Great food, even better cocktails, and definitely not the place for a sibling's emotional plumbing crisis. I took a screenshot, saved it, filed it neatly in my mental folder labeled Evidence for Future Smugness. Later that night, when she came home smelling like champagne and denial, I didn't say a word. I just asked, "So, how's Lucy's shower?" She blinked. "What? The one you were fixing?" "Oh, fine. Yeah, all good now." "Cool," I said, smiling. "Good to know plumbing emergencies respect your schedule." She looked at me for a second, suspicious, then shrugged and went to bed. I stared at the ceiling that night, my mind buzzing with sarcasm and caffeine. I wasn't heartbroken. Not yet. I was fascinated. How long could she keep this up? How long could someone stare their spouse in the face and lie so easily? The next day, Marcus caught me in the shop, deep in thought. "You look like a man who's either about to cry or build something illegal." "Neither," I said. "Just thinking." "About?" "Patterns," I said. "People. How predictable they are once you stop romanticizing them." He whistled. "Damn, that's poetic. You write that down." "Probably should," I said, scribbling a note on the corner of a receipt. Might come in handy during my villain arc. By week 3, I'd stopped pretending not to know. She was lying. I didn't have proof yet, but the math didn't lie. Her Thursday perfume was back. The lipstick shade changed again, subtle but noticeable. You don't wear Crimson Affair to screw in light bulbs. Still, I kept the jokes coming, because humor is how I survive chaos. "Hey, Claire," I said one night, "you think your sister's ever gonna pay you for all this unpaid labor? Or at least name a room after you?" She smirked, tossing her hair. "You're such a clown." "Oh, baby," I said with a grin. "If this marriage had a laugh track, I'd be the whole studio audience." She rolled her eyes, kissed my cheek, and left again. That night, I stared at her contact name on my phone, Claire Redheart, and thought, yeah, that heart's earned an asterisk. By midnight, I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was certain. The texts, the perfume, the Thursday schedule, the overly cheerful behavior. It all pointed to one undeniable truth. My wife was lying to me, and not even creatively. The next morning, Marcus saw me grinning like a man who'd just discovered the last puzzle piece. "Oh no," he said. "You figured it out, didn't you?" "Almost," I said. "But before I make my move, I need one more thing. Proof so good it could win an Oscar." Marcus groaned. "Mark, please tell me you're not about to go full detective." I raised my coffee mug. "No, not detective. Strategist." He laughed. "Same thing, different hat." And he wasn't wrong. Because by that point, I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was the calm before a very calculated storm. I'd given her enough rope, enough Thursdays, enough fake sister crises. The spreadsheet was complete, the pattern was proven, and my gut, my once naive, trusting gut, was ready to cash its receipts. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. That's not my style. I was going to outsmart her, with patience, sarcasm, and maybe a little help from a GPS tracker I knew Marcus kept for company vehicles. Because if Claire wanted to play house at the Garden Loft, she was about to find out I'd been quietly renovating the foundation underneath her story. I wasn't angry anymore, just ready. And as I looked at her name lighting up my phone that night with another sister emergency text, I smiled, muttered to myself, "All right, sweetheart. Season finale coming soon," and poured myself another cup of black coffee, extra bitter, just like my sense of humor. Friday night rolled in like an old sitcom rerun. Predictable, overacted, and still somehow insulting. The sky outside was moody, the kind of overcast that makes streetlights come on too early. I was home by 6, apron on, Spotify playing romantic dinner vibes, because apparently, I'm the kind of guy who still believes in setting a mood even when the audience has left the building. I cooked spaghetti, classic, reliable, emotionally stable spaghetti. I even added garlic bread, poured myself a glass of wine, and lit a candle because why not? If I was going to eat alone, I might as well make it look intentional. Romance level, Olive Garden with ambition. At 9:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text that read, "Still at my sister's. She's overwhelmed." I stared at it for a good 10 seconds, then typed back, "By you or by IKEA furniture?" No response. Classic. I took a long sip of wine and looked across the table at the empty chair opposite me, the one that used to hold laughter, conversation, and the occasional "Can you pass the salt?" Tonight, it held nothing but her absence and a faint perfume ghost that had haunted the house since Tuesday. "So," I said out loud, twirling spaghetti around my fork, "how was your day, Mark?" "Pretty solid, Mark," I answered myself. Got lied to before breakfast, but on the plus side, the coffee was strong. I laughed at my own joke, because when you live in a romantic comedy turned tragedy, you either find humor or find a therapist. And therapists don't cook spaghetti this good. Halfway through my meal, I scrolled through Instagram and saw a picture Claire's sister Lucy had just posted. She was in pajamas, hair up, watching Netflix with a cat in her lap. The caption said, "Self-Care Friday. Haven't left the house all day." I froze mid-bite. Self-Care Friday. Haven't left the house all day. Oh, well, look at that. Turns out the sister wasn't overwhelmed by furniture after all. Unless IKEA started delivering emotional support cats. I smiled. Not the happy kind of smile. The "oh, you just won a free trip to divorce court" kind of smile. I put my phone down, leaned back in my chair, and let the candle flicker like it was mocking me. "Well," I said, "guess the sister's been outsourced." I wasn't even angry anymore. Anger's too loud. I'd moved past it to that cold, calm place where everything starts feeling like an experiment. I was curious now. How deep was this hole she was digging? And how far was I willing to let her fall before I stopped pretending not to notice? After dinner, I washed the dishes. Yes, even the pots. Because if there's one thing betrayal doesn't cancel, it's good hygiene. The suds felt oddly therapeutic. You can't scrub away lies, but you can at least make your kitchen shine. By 10 o'clock, I was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through memes because, honestly, if your marriage is crumbling, the internet's stupidity becomes a kind of comfort. One meme caught my eye. "Marriage is just two people texting each other on my way until one of you dies." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Accurate, I said out loud. Except in my case, it's just one person lying about where they're going. The TV was still on in the background, some cooking show where a British guy was yelling about burnt risotto. I raised my glass to him. "Preach, brother. Burn it all down." At 10:47, my phone buzzed again. "Claire, just wrapping up here. Don't wait up." "Oh, sweetheart." I wasn't waiting up. I was writing the screenplay. I typed back, "Got it. Hope the house survives whatever emotional tornado you and Lucy are battling." No reply. And honestly, I didn't need one. Her silence said everything. Silence is the love language of liars. I finished my wine, turned off the TV, and walked upstairs. Her side of the bed looked like a museum exhibit, perfectly smooth, untouched, lying about its purpose. I looked at it for a long second before saying, "At least someone's faithful." I got into bed, scrolled through photos on my phone, vacations, birthdays, her smile from better days. Every picture now felt like a screenshot from a deleted scene. You ever realize you're the only one still acting in a movie that's been canceled? That's what it felt like. The next morning, I decided to test a theory. She always came home around midnight smelling like fancy perfume and fabricated guilt. So, before she got in, I'd left her favorite coffee mug out on the counter and sprinkled a few coffee beans around it like some kind of forensic breadcrumb trail. If she came home and used it, I'd know. Sure enough, when I woke up at 6, there was lipstick on the rim. Fresh lipstick. Bright red. The kind she only wore to impress someone who wasn't me. I stood there staring at it, holding the mug like a detective with a clue. "Well," I said, "looks like the sister's into espresso now." Later that day, Marcus called while I was on the job site installing kitchen cabinets. "You good, man?" he asked. "Define good," I said. "If good means I made pasta for one and discovered my wife moonlights as Houdini, then yeah, I'm thriving." He chuckled. "You sound like you're handling it." "Oh, I'm handling it," I said. "I'm even developing a system. Thursday, lie. Friday, guilt coffee. Saturday, fake apologies. Rinse, repeat." Want me to tail her car? Marcus joked. Tempting, I said, but no. I don't need to chase her. I'm patient. I'm collecting clues like Pokemon. That made him laugh. You're scary when you're calm. I know, I said. I scare myself sometimes. That weekend, I tried to act normal. We had breakfast together, her acting like nothing was wrong, me acting like I didn't know. It was marriage improv at its finest. So, I said, stirring my coffee, how's Lucy? She's good, Claire said quickly, not looking up from her phone. Still dealing with some stuff? Yeah, I said, saw her post about that stuff. Looked pretty cozy with that cat. Her eyes flicked up. You follow her? I smiled. Of course. Family, right? There was a pause, the kind of silence that feels like someone just tripped over their own lie. Then she laughed awkwardly, took a sip of coffee, and said, You're weird sometimes. Oh, sweetheart, I said. You have no idea. She left shortly after, claiming she had errands. I watched her car pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street, then sat there for a moment, my coffee cooling in my hand. I could have confronted her right then. I could have shouted, thrown accusations, demanded the truth. But where's the fun in that? No, I wanted her to think she was safe. I wanted her to keep lying until the story folded in on itself. You see, when you're married to someone who underestimates you, the best revenge is patience. That evening, I ordered takeout, burgers and fries, the comfort food of broken hearts, and ate on the porch while the sun went down. The neighborhood looked normal, peaceful. Nobody could tell that inside my house lived a man quietly planning an emotional sting operation. Around 9:45, she texted again, running late. I replied instantly. Let me guess, sister emergency? No reply. 10 minutes later, I sent another. Tell her I said hi. Again. Still nothing. So I turned my phone off. If she wanted to live in her fantasy world, fine. But I wasn't going to be the background character anymore. Before bed, I made a quiet decision. No more emotional spreadsheets, no more guessing games. It was time to switch strategies. Less husband of the year, more detective with a sense of humor. If she wanted to keep playing the sister excuse routine, I'd be the audience that finally asked for a refund. As I lay in bed, I thought about how ridiculous it all was. We'd build a life together. Mortgage, vacations, inside jokes, a stupid golden retriever we both adored. And now it all boiled down to lies disguised as errands. It's funny how betrayal doesn't come crashing through the door. It just tiptoes in, wearing perfume and saying, Don't wait up. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the AC, and smiled. Because here's the thing. When people lie, they think they're getting away with it. They don't realize they're teaching you exactly how they move, how they talk, how they slip up. Claire was practically handing me the blueprint to her downfall. So yeah, that Friday night wasn't the end. It was the rehearsal dinner for the main event. And as I closed my eyes, I whispered, All right, sweetheart. The curtain's rising soon. Because sometimes, the calmest dinners end up being the appetizer before the real drama hits the table. By the next Thursday, I'd stopped pretending I believed her. The performance was over. I was just watching the reruns for continuity errors. Same setting, same time, same script. Claire stood by the front door with that fake I'm being helpful smile and her tote bag, her version of a magician's hat. I could almost hear the theme music playing in my head. Previously, on the sister excuse routine, she cleared her throat. My sister needs help again. Something about her smoke detector or, curtains. Of course, curtains. The universal symbol for lies. I nodded slowly, my inner monologue doing jazz hands. Ah yes, the weekly crisis. I'll make sure to light a candle for her emotional stability. Her lips twitched. You're being sarcastic. Me? No way, I said. I'm just expressing gratitude that your sister's house is single-handedly keeping you in cardio shape. She sighed, probably wondering why I couldn't just stay dumb and compliant. Don't wait up, she said, kissing me on the cheek. The kiss felt like an apology pre-packaged in denial. When the door clicked shut, I didn't follow her right away. I took a sip of coffee, sat on the couch, and let the silence stretch. My gut told me it was time. No more spreadsheets, no more guesswork. Time for hard data. I picked up my phone and called Marcus. He answered on the second ring, voice half asleep and half annoyed. Mark, it's 6:30. Either you're bleeding or you're about to do something stupid. Good guess, I said. Remember that GPS tracker you installed on the company supply truck last year? You still got it. He groaned. Man, what are you planning? Just data collection, I said, like a Fitbit for betrayal. There was silence, then a low whistle. You're really going through with this? Oh yeah, I said. If my wife's gonna treat me like a background extra, I might as well direct the damn movie. An hour later, I was standing in the garage, the small black tracker sitting on the workbench like a shiny little truth grenade. Marcus had dropped it off in a brown envelope labeled for science. I attached it discreetly under Claire's back bumper. Years of renovation work had made me good with tools. Turns out heartbreak just makes you creative with them. When I finished, I stood up, wiped my hands, and said to no one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you install accountability. I went back inside, poured myself another coffee, and waited. At exactly 7:02 p.m., her little white Honda backed out of the driveway and disappeared down the street. I opened the tracking app on my phone and watched the blinking dot move like a heartbeat. For the first few miles, she headed toward her sister's neighborhood, and for a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, I was the world's biggest jerk. Then she passed the turnoff. My eyebrows shot up. Oh, look at that. The scenic route. She kept driving, past her sister's street, past the grocery store, past every possible excuse. The little dot stopped downtown, right at an upscale restaurant called the Garden Loft. My chest tightened, but not in that dramatic heartbreak way. More like when you're watching someone fail a test you already knew they hadn't studied for. I zoomed in on the map. The Garden Loft, polished wood, rooftop bar, mood lighting that screams confess your sins over cocktails. I'd been there before. Their truffle fries were good, their lies better. I grabbed my jacket, keys, and the last ounce of my dignity and drove downtown. No speeding, no music, no anger, just that eerie calm that hits you when you've stopped being surprised. The parking lot was half full, the kind of classy place where everyone's car payment is overdue but their outfits say otherwise. I parked a block away and watched from the corner. At 7:43, a familiar silhouette appeared under the restaurant's string lights. Claire. She stepped out of a taxi, because of course she did, and adjusted her dress. Not the helping my sister fix curtains dress. No, this was a soft blue number that could make a saint sin. Her hair was perfect. Her perfume floated through the air like guilt in a floral disguise. Then came him. Tall, expensive haircut, blazer the color of arrogance. Her boss. I'd seen him once at the clinic's holiday party. The type of guy who probably uses his reflection as a screensaver. He smiled, said something, and she laughed. That laugh, the one that used to belong to me, the one she used to give when I said something stupid and she'd pretend it was adorable. Now it was his. I didn't take pictures at first. I just watched. They hugged, close and slow, like two people who'd stopped pretending. Then I pulled out my phone and snapped a few. Not because I wanted revenge, just because I wanted proof that I wasn't crazy. A part of me expected to feel shattered, to storm in there and make a scene. But I didn't. Instead, I laughed. Quietly, but deeply. Well, I muttered. The sister's been promoted to management. They went inside, hand brushing hand, and disappeared into the restaurant. I leaned against my car, staring at the glowing sign, and thought about how insane this all was. I'd spent weeks doubting myself, thinking I was paranoid, when all along, I was just observant. I texted Marcus a picture. Mark, found her. The sister's got a new name, Mr. Smooth Blazer. Marcus, damn. You okay, man? Mark, never better. I'm just glad to see the data matches the hypothesis. He called me immediately. Bro, you sound way too calm for someone who just caught his wife cheating. Anger's inefficient, I said. You waste all your energy yelling instead of strategizing. Strategizing? Dude, this isn't a corporate merger. It's your marriage. Exactly, I said. And I'm about to divest my assets. He sighed. You're terrifying. I know, I said with a smile. That's what keeps me young. After I hung up, I sat in my car for a while, scrolling through the photos. Her leaning into him, his hand on her waist. The smile. That fake, rehearsed smile she'd been giving me for weeks, now repurposed for a man with a better suit. For a moment, something in me cracked. Not rage, just disappointment. Like realizing your favorite restaurant's been microwaving the food all along. I could have walked in, could have confronted them, flipped a table, gone viral on TikTok as that guy who lost it at the Garden Loft. But no, Claire had built this story carefully, and I wasn't about to ruin her big performance. Not yet. I waited until 10:15 p.m. when the tracker showed her car moving again. I followed from a distance, headlights dimmed, music off. She didn't head home right away. Nope. She took a little detour, a 20-minute stop at a hotel parking lot near the highway. I didn't need to guess. The dots connected themselves. When she finally pulled into our driveway close to midnight, I was already home, sitting in my armchair like a man watching the final episode of a long-running series. She walked in, trying to look casual. "Hey," she said. "Sorry, my sister. Needed help?" "Yeah," I interrupted softly. "How's she doing?" She froze. Just for a second, but I caught it. The micro-expression. The split second of "oh crap." "She's fine," Claire said. "We got everything handled." "Good," I said, sipping my coffee. "Must have been exhausting. You should get some rest." She smiled weakly, kissed my cheek, and went upstairs. I sat there for another hour, staring at the wall. The house felt smaller, like her lies were eating the air. Eventually, I laughed, a quiet, tired laugh. The sister's house. The most magical property in America. Someone should list it on Zillow. 3 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, and unlimited excuses. Before going to bed, I opened my phone and looked at the map one more time. The blinking dot had stopped moving. She was asleep now. Dreaming, probably. I wondered if she dreamed about me anymore, or if I'd already been recast. I saved the screenshots, renamed the folder Garden Loft, Episode 1, and closed the app. Then I stared at the ceiling in the dark and whispered, "All right, sweetheart. Curtains up soon. Enjoy your last Thursday as a free agent." Because I wasn't going to shout or throw punches. That's what amateurs do. I was going to wait, smile, and serve her karma with a side of pancakes. She'd never see it coming. And as sleep finally crept in, I couldn't help but grin at the absurdity of it all. My wife thought she was playing chess. Cute. I'd been quietly building the entire board. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was heartbroken, but because I was planning. You see, some people process betrayal with tears, others with whiskey. Me? I process it with breakfast food and strategy. Nothing says clarity like carbs. By sunrise, I'd brewed a pot of coffee strong enough to melt spoons and was pacing the kitchen like a man plotting an Ocean's 11-style emotional heist. The goal wasn't revenge. Well, not the petty kind. It was something quieter, smarter. I didn't want her crying or yelling or denying. I wanted her cornered by reality, one pancake at a time. That's when I thought of Lucy, Claire's actual sister. Sweet, blunt, allergic to drama, and completely unaware she'd been cast as the world's worst alibi. If anyone could help me execute Operation Pancake, it was her. I grabbed my phone, scrolled to her number, and hit call. She answered with the kind of early morning grogginess that could curdle milk. "Mark? It's 7 a.m. Did someone die?" "Not yet," I said, pouring coffee into my mug. "But a marriage is about to flatline." "What?" she mumbled. "Long story. You busy tomorrow morning?" There was a pause. "Not really, why?" "I'm making pancakes." "Bring your honesty." "Mark," she sighed. "This about Claire? Let's just say the syrup's gonna spill itself." Silence. "Then, I'll be there." I smiled. Lucy wasn't one for confrontation, but she respected truth like it was a religion. All day, I went about work like nothing was wrong. Installed cabinets, fixed drywall, nodded along as Marcus made jokes about Detective Mark. But my mind was locked on the plan. Every detail mattered. The timing, the setting, the calm delivery. This wasn't going to be some loud, messy blowout. Oh no, this was going to be a quiet, elegant breakfast ambush. When I got home that night, Claire was on the couch pretending to scroll through her phone. She looked up, feigning casual. "Hey, you're home early." "It's 7, I said, dropping my keys in the bowl. Pretty standard for home early. She smiled awkwardly. "Long day. Not as long as yours, I'm sure," I said lightly. "You and your sister fixing the whole house now? Or just the curtains?" Her eyes flicked up, just for a second. But it was enough. She, needed help moving some stuff. Of course," I said. "Sister stuff? You two should start a reality show. Homewreckers and handymen." She frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I said, smiling. "Just sounds like good TV." She stared at me for a moment, trying to gauge whether I was joking. I was, technically, but not in the way she thought. I kissed her on the forehead and went upstairs, humming. That confused her even more. I wanted her uneasy. Guilt needs space to stretch before it snaps. By the next morning, everything was in motion. Lucy texted me at 7:05, leaving now. Should I bring anything? Just your conscience, I replied. At 7:30, I was flipping pancakes like a man possessed. I'm not even a breakfast guy, but when you're plotting poetic justice, you develop culinary talents fast. The smell of butter and maple syrup filled the air, comforting, disarming, and deeply ironic. I set the table for two, me and Lucy. Real plates, cloth napkins, the good coffee mugs. I wanted this to look domestic, peaceful, almost warm. Because nothing messes with a liar's head like normalcy used as a weapon. At exactly 7:58, Lucy knocked on the door. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Jeans, hoodie, ponytail, the I didn't come here to play outfit. Morning, I said. She stepped inside cautiously. You weren't kidding about pancakes. Told you. Operation Pancake in full swing. She blinked. You actually named it? Every great operation needs branding, I said, pouring her coffee. She gave a tired laugh, sat down, and looked around. So what exactly are we doing? Having breakfast, I said, waiting for a special guest. Her brows furrowed. You mean Claire? Yep. She texted last night. Said she'd be helping you this morning. So technically, you're the alibi. Lucy's mouth fell open. She told you that. Oh, yes, I said, flipping another pancake. Apparently, your house needs emotional support again. Lucy rubbed her temples. Mark, I had no idea. I swear I didn't. I smiled, handing her a plate. I believe you. You're the honest one in the family. That's why you're here. I just figured since you're such a vital part of her excuses, you might as well get breakfast out of it. She sighed, shaking her head. God, this is so messed up. Welcome to my life, I said cheerfully, sliding another pancake onto the stack. Syrup? She gave me a look that said you're way too calm for a man whose marriage is on fire. I shrugged. Anger's for amateurs. I prefer subtle humiliation. It lasts longer. By 8:15, the kitchen looked perfect, like a Norman Rockwell painting sponsored by Emotional Detachment. 2 plates of pancakes, a pot of coffee, and the faint hum of someone about to regret their life choices. Lucy sat quietly, sipping her coffee, glancing at the door every few seconds. You sure she's coming? Oh, she'll come, I said. Liars love consistency. Makes them feel safe. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. Claire. Hey, just heading to Lucy's now. I smirked. She's punctual. I'll give her that. Lucy groaned. I can't believe this. Believe it, I said. And enjoy your pancakes before the drama gets cold. We ate in silence for a few minutes, the clock ticking loudly enough to be dramatic. I wasn't nervous. I was serene, in that twisted way people get when they're about to prove they were right all along. Lucy looked up. You know, part of me hoped you were wrong. Me too, I said. But hope's like decaf coffee. Looks nice, does nothing. She snorted into her cup, trying not to laugh. You're ridiculous. Maybe, I said. But I'm also prepared. At 8:17, the sound of the garage door echoed through the house. My phone pinged again. Claire, at Lucy's. Wish me luck. Lucy stared at me, wide-eyed. Oh my God. I grinned. Showtime. We heard the car door, the soft click of heels, the jingle of keys. Claire's familiar rhythm. My pulse didn't spike, it steadied. She had no idea what she was walking into. The front door opened. Honey, she called, voice light, rehearsed. You up? In the kitchen, I said casually. She walked in, wearing a perfectly chosen outfit. Jeans, sweater, that subtle no-makeup look. She stopped dead in the doorway. Lucy, mid-bite, froze too. The room went silent except for the faint hiss of the skillet. Lucy, Claire said, her voice cracking slightly. Lucy put her fork down. Morning. Then her gaze shifted to me. Mark. I turned around slowly, spatula in hand, smiling like a man who'd just caught the season finale. Morning, sweetheart. Pancakes are ready. Thought we'd have breakfast with your sister before your big home project. Her face drained faster than my bank account on tax day. What are you talking about? Oh, you know, I said, flipping a pancake. Your sister. The one you've been helping every Thursday and Friday night. The one who's been overwhelmed with curtain rods and emotional support smoke detectors. Her eyes darted to Lucy, then back to me. This isn't funny. Oh, it's hilarious, I said. You just don't know the punchline yet. Lucy crossed her arms, her expression caught between pity and fury. Claire, she said quietly, what did you tell him last night? Claire opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I'll help you out, I said. You told me you were going to Lucy's to help her fix something. Lucy scoffed. I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Claire blinked rapidly, her breathing shaky. I can explain. Fantastic, I said, setting down the spatula. Because these pancakes deserve a good story to go with them. Silence filled the room like fog. Lucy whispered, Mark, you really made pancakes for this? Oh, absolutely, I said. You can't serve the truth cold. Needs warmth, butter, and timing. Claire's lip trembled. Please, can we talk privately? I tilted my head. Privately? Without your actual sister present? The one you've been pretending to help every week. Lucy looked at me, then at her sister. Claire, you owe him honesty. At least once in your life. Claire's shoulders slumped. Lucy, please. But Lucy didn't budge. No. You dragged my name into your mess. Sit down. I leaned back, arms crossed. Don't worry, honey. We saved you the burnt pancake. Felt symbolic. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because the truth wasn't that she'd broken my heart. It was that she'd insulted my intelligence. And that, to me, was unforgivable. I poured myself another cup of coffee, looked her dead in the eye, and said, So, Claire, how's your boss? Saturday morning had the nerve to be beautiful. Sunlight leaking through the blinds, birds chirping, the kind of crisp air that usually makes people post grateful for another day selfies. Except in my kitchen, it wasn't gratitude floating in the air, it was tension thick enough to butter. I was up early, of course. I made coffee strong enough to revive a small nation and set the table for 2. Lucy sat across from me, still half in disbelief that she'd just watched her sister get caught like a raccoon in a jewelry store. She kept looking at the door, like maybe Claire would walk in and this whole thing would reset, like a bad sitcom that refuses to get canceled. What exactly are we doing again? Lucy asked finally, fingers wrapped around her coffee mug. Having breakfast, I said, flipping another pancake onto a plate. Waiting for the sequel. The sequel? Yeah, I said. You saw the pilot episode yesterday. Ratings were good. Time to see if she renews her lies for another season. Lucy rolled her eyes, but I caught the small grin. You're way too calm for someone in your situation. Calm? I laughed. Oh, I'm not calm. I'm caffeinated and petty. Big difference. The sound of the garage door opening at 8:17 cut our banter short. Claire's punctuality was suddenly less endearing and more incriminating. My phone pinged a second later, leaving Lucy's now. Lucy looked at me like she wanted to throw the mug. She texted that to you? Oh yeah, I said, grinning. Right on schedule. Claire had always loved punctuality. She'd show up early to weddings, flights, even dentist appointments. I guess cheating was no exception. I poured Lucy another cup of coffee. Relax. Just let me handle it. The goal isn't yelling, it's clarity. Lucy muttered. You sound like a therapist with vengeance issues. Thank you, I said. I've been working on that. The kitchen was immaculate. 2 plates of pancakes on the counter, syrup bottle shining like it was auditioning for a commercial. The smell of butter, cinnamon, and confrontation filled the room. The front door opened, and the sound of her heels clicked against the tile, steady, rehearsed. She walked in, the definition of controlled chaos. Hair slightly messy, makeup perfect, clothes casual enough to pass as innocent. But her eyes, those gave it away. Wide, nervous, darting around like she was trying to calculate her way out of a maze. Morning, I said casually, setting a plate on the table. Coffee's hot, syrup's cold, lies optional. Claire froze when she saw Lucy sitting there. Lucy? What are you? Morning, Lucy said, voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. Claire blinked. You're here? Lucy raised an eyebrow. Yeah, weird, right? Since I was apparently with you all night. Claire's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I'd seen less stammering at open mic nights. I slid a plate of pancakes toward her. Have a seat, sweetheart. Breakfast is the most important meal of the confrontation. Mark, please, she said softly. Can we not do this? Oh, we can absolutely do this, I said. We have pancakes, witnesses, and enough irony to fill a TED Talk. She hesitated before sitting down, her eyes flicking to Lucy. I didn't know you'd be here. Lucy took a calm sip of coffee. Yeah, I bet. For a few seconds, the only sound was the faint clink of my fork against the plate. I spread butter on my pancakes slowly, methodically, like a man who'd already won and was just waiting for the credits to roll. Claire finally broke. Mark, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Define far, I said, not looking up. Because we've officially passed curtain rods and entered hotel territory. She flinched. You were following me? Technically, a GPS tracker was, I said. But yes, I was in the audience. You should have waved. Her mouth fell open. You tracked my car? I nodded. Yeah, you left me no choice. You were setting attendance records at the sister house of make-believe. Lucy groaned quietly, rubbing her temples. God, Claire. Claire turned to her sister, desperation in her eyes. You don't understand. No, Lucy interrupted. I think I understand perfectly. You used me as your cover. You lied to both of us. That's not just cruel, it's lazy. Claire's face crumpled. Everything got complicated, okay? Complicated, I said, laughing softly. That's what people call it when they run out of adjectives for guilt. She looked at me with tears starting to well up. Mark, please. I made a mistake. You made a pattern, I said, leaning back in my chair. A mistake is tripping once. A pattern is building a staircase. Lucy gave a low whistle. Damn. Claire reached across the table, but I didn't move. Mark, I love you. I was just lost. I smiled faintly. You weren't lost, Claire. You had GPS. You just preferred a different destination. For a moment, the kitchen was silent again, except for the faint ticking of the wall clock and the low hum of the fridge, domestic sounds now weaponized by awkward truth. Lucy cleared her throat. You know, for what it's worth, I'm really sorry, Mark. I should have noticed. I shrugged. Not your fault. I'm the idiot who believed in Thursday nights and sisterly devotion. Claire wiped her eyes. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Oh sure, I said. Because tripping and falling into your boss's arms is the new yoga. She winced. You're being cruel. No, I said calmly. I'm being accurate. Lucy stood up. I'll give you two a minute. I shook my head. No, stay. You're part of the story now. Claire buried her face in her hands. I can't do this with her here. Yeah, that's kind of the point, I said. It's easy to lie when no one's watching. Harder when the person you lied about is sitting right in front of you with a fork. Lucy crossed her arms. So what happens now? Oh, I already have a plan, I said. Step 1, clarity. Step 2, closure. Step 3, cleaning the kitchen, because emotional warfare gets messy. Claire finally looked up, eyes red. I swear, I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't, I said. You disappointed me. There's a difference. Hurt fades. Disappointment lingers, like cologne on a liar's coat. She blinked. Are you quoting something? Yeah, I said. Myself. I'm thinking of publishing it under things husbands say right before they file. Lucy made a noise halfway between a laugh and a sob. You two are unbelievable. I smiled at her. Family resemblance. Claire shook her head. You can't just throw this all away. We have years together, a life. Memories, I corrected. We had a life. What you've got now is an empty house and a husband who makes excellent pancakes, but terrible blind faith. She pushed her plate away, hands trembling. I don't know what you want from me. Accountability, I said, but I'll settle for silence. Her lower lip quivered. Mark, please. I stood up, collecting plates. Eat, don't eat, whatever you want. But the next time you use the word sister, make sure it doesn't come with a side of deceit. Lucy stood too, looking torn. Mark, I'll go. You need space. Nah, I said. Space is overrated. I just need peace. And pancakes, apparently. Claire rose slowly, eyes glassy, hands clasped like she was praying for a rewrite. Can we at least talk later? Sure, I said, picking up my coffee. But just so we're clear, it'll be the kind of talk where one of us brings closure and the other brings boxes. That one hit. Hard. She froze, then sat back down, defeated. Lucy whispered, You really planned this, didn't you? I nodded. Yep. I figured if she was going to keep lying through dinner, I'd serve her the truth at breakfast. Claire whispered something I couldn't hear, voice breaking. What was that? I asked. She met my gaze, tear-streaked, but steady. I said I'm sorry. I sighed. I know. You said it before. But apologies without change are just air fresheners in a burning house. She broke then. Tears, shaking shoulders, all of it. Lucy reached over to comfort her, but I stopped her gently. Let her sit with it. She's been comfortable for too long. It wasn't vindictive, it was necessary. She needed to feel the silence she'd created, the distance she'd built one excuse at a time. After a few long minutes, I started clearing the table. Plates, cups, crumbs. Routine. Normalcy. The kind of mundane task that somehow feels sacred after chaos. Lucy stood beside me, drying dishes. You sure you're okay? I smiled faintly. Define okay. Not planning murder? Then yeah, I'm fantastic. She huffed a laugh. You're something else, Mark. I get that a lot, I said, stacking the plates. Mostly from people who regret underestimating me. Behind us, Claire whispered. Mark, please don't hate me. I paused, turned to face her. I don't hate you, Claire. Hate's too passionate for what's left. I just don't care enough anymore. Her face crumbled. You don't mean that. Oh, I do, I said softly. Because indifference is the last stage of love, right before paperwork. Lucy shot me a look. That was cold. Therapeutic, I said. I turned back to the sink, rinsing the last fork. The sunlight caught the window just right, washing the room in gold like nothing bad had ever happened here. And for a moment, I felt it, the peace that comes after truth. Claire sat quietly, sniffling, staring at the pancakes she hadn't touched. Lucy gave me a subtle nod, part approval, part heartbreak. And me? I just dried my hands, took a sip of coffee, and said, well, that went better than expected. Anyone want seconds? At 8:17 a.m., right on cue, the garage door rumbled like a drum roll announcing someone's final performance. I didn't even flinch this time. I just took a sip of my coffee, leaned against the counter, and waited. Lucy glanced at me from across the kitchen table, nervous, eyes darting like we were about to summon a ghost. Still sure about this? She whispered. Oh yeah, I said, setting my mug down. If she's gonna lie, she might as well do it in front of an audience. It builds character. Lucy frowned. This feels cruel. It's not cruel, I said. It's accountability, just served hot. The door from the garage creaked open, and there it was, the sound of her heels tapping across the tile. That rhythm I used to find comforting now made my stomach tighten. She walked in, looking polished as ever, like she'd walked straight out of a lifestyle commercial. Jeans, cream sweater, hair messy but not really. Makeup that said, I woke up like this, even though we both knew Sephora was involved. She stopped mid-step. Her smile froze like bad Wi-Fi when she saw Lucy sitting at the table, sipping coffee like she'd been there forever. Lucy, Claire said, blinking. What are you doing here? Lucy didn't even look up. Morning. Claire's eyes darted between us like she was watching a tennis match she didn't remember signing up for. Wait, what's going on? I smiled. The calm smile of a man whose emotional dam had already burst and drained days ago. Oh, just breakfast. Thought we'd all enjoy some family time before your next big renovation project at your sister's house. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For a split second, I could see her brain flipping through excuses like a Rolodex. She went with denial. What are you talking about? Come on, I said. Let's not pretend we don't know what day it is. It's Thursday, also known as Sister Night, or as I like to call it, Casual Betrayal Hour. Her lips parted again, but nothing came out except air. The silence stretched long enough to make even the fridge hum feel judgmental. Lucy sighed, breaking it. She told you she was with me again, didn't she? I nodded. Yep. Last night. Said you were overwhelmed and needed help. Lucy leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. That's funny. I was at home binge-watching baking shows and questioning my life choices. The color drained from Claire's face. Mark, please, this isn't what it looks like. I finished for her, smirking. You're right. It's worse. Because it's what it is. Her voice cracked. You don't understand. Oh, I understand plenty, I said, leaning forward. I understand GPS coordinates, timestamps, restaurant receipts, and hotel parking lots. I understand that my marriage has better attendance at the garden loft than our anniversary dinner did. Her eyes widened. You followed me. Tracked, I corrected. There's a difference. Following's emotional. Tracking's scientific. Lucy nearly choked on her coffee. Oh my God, Claire's voice trembled. Mark, please, can we talk privately? Oh, you mean without your sister here? The one you've been helping every week. I said, no, I think she deserves front row seats. After all, she's been unknowingly cast as your stunt double. Lucy frowned at her sister. Claire, seriously? Claire's hands shook. Lucy, I swear I didn't. Don't. Lucy cut in sharply. You used my name. You dragged me into your mess. You lied to the one person who's done nothing but treat you like you mattered. And for what? A guy in a blazer who probably quotes leadership books for fun. That one hit hard. I could see it in Claire's eyes, the sting of being called out by the one person she thought would protect her. I crossed my arms. So, sweetheart, you want to explain to us how your boss ended up being part of your home improvement project? Because I'm dying to know what tool he brought. She winced. You're being cruel. No, I'm being creative, I said. There's a difference. Cruelty's messy. Creativity's about precision. Lucy muttered under her breath. You're terrifying when you're calm. Thank you, I said. Claire tried again, voice breaking. Mark, it wasn't like that. It just happened. I laughed quietly. Oh, the classic just happened defense. Let me guess, gravity, right? You tripped, fell into his arms, and one thing led to adultery. She stood there, shaking, trying to find words. You're twisting everything. Am I? I said, because from where I'm standing, everything's untwisting just fine. Lucy stood slowly, setting her mug down. You know, Claire, I didn't even want to come here today. But Mark called me, told me what was going on, and I couldn't believe it. I told myself, no way, not my sister, not Claire. She sighed. I stayed silent, letting Lucy handle that part. She was better at emotional shaming than I was. My specialty was sarcastic commentary. When the silence fell again, I walked to the table, set down my coffee, and said, Look, Claire, I didn't ask for perfection. I asked for honesty. And you couldn't even give me that. So you know what? Breakfast seemed like the least painful way to serve the truth. She sobbed quietly. I didn't mean for it to happen, Mark. Yeah, I said. People rarely schedule stupidity. It just kind of RSVPs itself. She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. For a split second, I almost pitied her. Then I remembered the photo of her and Mr. Smooth Blazer under those glowing patio lights, her smile brighter than I'd seen in months. And just like that, pity evaporated. Lucy reached across the table and put a hand on my arm. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Yes, I said softly. I do. I turned back to Claire. You want to know what hurts most? It's not the cheating. It's the effort you put into lying. The planning, the coordination, the timing. If you'd applied half that energy to our marriage, we'd be unstoppable. She shook her head. You don't know how lonely I was. Oh, please, I said, rolling my eyes. You weren't lonely, Claire. You were bored. Big difference. Loneliness makes you reach out. Boredom makes you reach downward. Lucy stood then, her face pale. I can't listen to this anymore. Stay, I said. We're almost done. Claire looked at me helplessly. Mark, please, I love you. I took a long breath, studying her face, the one I'd memorized years ago, back when I believed she was my forever person. Now all I saw were cracks where the truth had leaked out. Maybe you did, I said finally. Or maybe you just love the version of me who didn't ask questions. She whispered, You've changed. Yeah, I said. Turns out betrayal's an excellent self-improvement program. Lucy exhaled sharply. He's not wrong. Claire looked between us, her face crumpling. What do you want me to say? How about the truth? I said, unedited, unrehearsed, unfiltered. Just once. She hesitated, then whispered, It's been going on for months. Lucy gasped. I didn't move. Wow. Honesty looks good on you. Should have tried it sooner. She cried harder. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. Usually, it starts with words, I said. You open your mouth and speak them. Revolutionary concept. Lucy muttered, Mark. I held up a hand. No, she needs to hear this. Because she's been living like the truth's optional. It's not. It's the rent you pay for your place in someone's heart. That broke her. She sobbed into her hands, shoulders trembling. I let her. After a long silence, I stood, picked up the car keys, and said, You know, Claire, I hope he's worth it. Because the next time you walk through that door, it won't open for you. Lucy looked at me, shocked. Mark, I turned to her. Thanks for being here. Really, you didn't sign up for this circus, but at least someone honest showed up today. Claire reached for me one last time. Please, can we talk later? I met her eyes, calm, steady. You can talk to my lawyer later. He's great at listening. Then I walked past her, through that same door she'd just come in from, the morning light hitting me in the face. It felt like oxygen. Behind me, I heard Lucy's quiet voice. He warned you, Claire. And as I stepped outside, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally felt free. The door shut softly behind me. Lucy sat frozen at the table, fork halfway to her mouth, eyes darting between us like a referee at a boxing match who'd rather be anywhere else. I laid my phone on the table like a weapon I didn't even need to use anymore. The screen glowed with pictures from the garden loft. Her and Mr. Smooth Blazer, hands brushing, heads close, smiles that used to belong to me. No shouting, no slamming, no dramatic soap opera energy. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my heart finally switching from disbelief to detachment. She stared at the phone. Her voice came out small, shaky. "Mark, I didn't mean for it to happen." "Yeah," I said, stirring my coffee. People rarely schedule stupidity. It just kind of sneaks onto the calendar. Her lips trembled. "Please, you have to believe me." "Oh, I do," I said, leaning back. "I believe you didn't mean for it to happen the first time. But the second? The fifth? The 10th? Yeah, that takes effort. You had to put on perfume, coordinate schedules, and remember which lie you told me last Thursday. That's not an accident, sweetheart. That's logistics." Lucy shifted in her seat, eyes full of the kind of secondhand pain that doesn't belong to her but still hurts. "Claire," she said softly, "you owe him honesty. At least once." Claire turned toward her sister, tears pooling. "Lucy, please don't do this." "Don't do what?" Lucy said sharply. "Be the one person in this room not pretending anymore." That hit harder than I expected. Lucy's voice cracked, but her words didn't. She looked at me and then back at her sister. "You dragged me into this. You used me as your excuse. I was your shield. And for what? So you could play house with your boss while your husband made pancakes." Claire's tears spilled. "It's not like that." "Oh, it's exactly like that," I said. "I've got the pictures, timestamps, and one very patient GPS tracker that would disagree with you." She glanced down at the photos again, her breath hitching. "I made a mistake." I took a long sip of coffee and smiled faintly. "You keep calling it that. You know, if mistakes came with frequent flyer miles, you'd be in business class by now." Lucy put her fork down. "Mark, maybe you should." "No," I said calmly. "We're finishing breakfast. The truth deserves a full course." Claire wiped her face, shaking her head. "Please, not in front of her. Can't we just talk privately?" I laughed softly. "Privately? You mean like those private dinners downtown? Or those private hotel detours on the way home from your sisters?" Her mouth opened, but no words followed. Lucy stood abruptly, her chair scraping the tile. "I can't sit here." I gestured toward her seat. "Actually, I think you should. You deserve to see how your name's been used as a hall pass for months." Claire glared at me through her tears. "You're enjoying this." "Enjoying?" I said. "No, I'm savoring it. Like that first sip of coffee after a month of drinking decaf lies." She slammed her hand on the table. "God, you're so smug." "Smug?" I shrugged. "Nah, just well-informed." Lucy exhaled slowly. "Claire, he has every right." Claire's voice cracked again. "Lucy, stay out of this." Lucy crossed her arms. "No, you made me part of it." For a second, no one spoke. The sunlight coming through the kitchen window made everything look too normal for what was happening. The maple syrup bottle gleamed like a tiny golden trophy of irony. I looked at Claire, my voice steady. "You know, I used to wake up every morning thinking you were the best part of my day. Turns out, you were the best liar I've ever met." She broke then, full sobs shaking her shoulders. "Stop, please." "Why?" I asked. "You stopped caring about my feelings months ago. Why should I protect yours now?" Her sobs filled the room. I didn't look away. This wasn't cruelty, it was consequence. Lucy stepped closer, her voice quiet but sharp. "You should have told him. If you were unhappy, you should have left. You don't burn the house down just because you're cold." Claire whispered. "I know." "Do you?" I asked. "Because every time you walked through that door and smiled at me, you built another lie. You didn't just cheat, you rehearsed." She covered her face again. I was scared. I leaned forward. Of what? Honesty? Accountability? Or maybe just being alone without someone to feed your ego? Lucy winced. "Okay, maybe that's enough." "No," I said, turning to her. "It's not. Because this right here, this silence, is the only moment of truth we've had in months." I looked back at Claire, who was staring down at her hands. "You always said communication was key. Well, congratulations. The door's open, and I'm talking." She looked up, eyes red. "What do you want me to say?" How about the truth? I said. All of it. Not the pretty version. The one you don't post about. The one that smells like his cologne and sounds like lies whispered between drinks. She let out a long, shaky breath. It started after that fight we had about your job. I felt like you were drifting, like you didn't see me anymore. I nodded. Ah, the classic, you made me cheat by existing defense. I was waiting for that one. She flinched. It's not an excuse. Good, I said. Because excuses are what got you here. Lucy shook her head. Claire, you can't justify this. You're just making it worse. Claire looked between us, desperate. I loved him, okay? Or at least I thought I did. The words hit like a punch, but not the painful kind. The clarifying kind. The one that makes everything make sense in the worst way possible. I nodded slowly. There it is. Finally, the truth. She started crying harder. Mark, please. I cut her off gently. No, don't please me. You wanted honesty? This is what it feels like. Unfiltered, unflattering, and long overdue. Lucy whispered, You're handling this better than I ever could. I smiled faintly. That's because I already did the falling apart part weeks ago. I just hadn't told anyone. The kitchen clock ticked like it was mocking us. 8:42 a.m. The longest breakfast of my life. Claire finally stood, wiping her tears. So what now? You're just going to hate me forever. Hate takes energy, I said. I'm saving mine for rebuilding. Her chin quivered. Rebuilding what? My peace, I said. You destroyed my trust, not my capacity for pancakes. Lucy gave me a look that was equal parts admiration and heartbreak. You really are something else, Mark. Yeah, I said, apparently too boring to compete with a man who wears tailored suits and thinks subtlety is foreplay. That actually made Lucy laugh through her tears. Even Claire cracked a sad smile, like her body couldn't help but react to humor even while crumbling. For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered the text that started it all, the perfume that didn't belong, the way she kissed me goodnight with someone else's name sitting behind her lips. I picked up the phone again and tapped the screen to black. I'm not going to ruin your life, Claire. You did that yourself. I'm just setting the table for honesty. She looked at me helplessly. I don't know how to fix this. You don't, I said simply. You move on. Preferably without dragging your sister or me into your cover stories next time. Lucy grabbed her purse. I think I should go. You two need space. Yeah, I said softly. But not the kind you can fix with curtains. She hesitated, then hugged me. You didn't deserve this. I know, I said. But sometimes life serves you burnt pancakes and calls it breakfast. She left quietly, the front door clicking shut behind her. That left just the two of us. Me and Claire. The silence between us had weight now, like gravity. I turned to her one last time. You know what's funny? I believed you every single time you said, I'll be late tonight. I even used to text you drive safe. She nodded weakly. You're a good man. Yeah, I said. And that used to be enough for you. She whispered, I'm sorry. I smiled faintly. Don't be sorry over breakfast. The eggs didn't cheat on you. That line hit her like a wave. She laughed, half sob, half broken giggle. Then she sank back into the chair, staring at the table like she wished she could crawl under it. I grabbed my jacket, sliding my keys into my pocket. Eat if you want, I said. At least something good came out of this morning. She looked up. Where are you going? To work, I said. Some people still need me to build things that last. As I reached the door, she whispered, Mark, do you hate me? I stopped, hand on the knob. No, I said. You're not worth that much emotion anymore. And then I stepped outside, the morning sun hitting my face. It smelled like coffee, syrup, and closure. Inside, through the window, I saw her still sitting at the table, staring at a plate she couldn't eat and a life she'd just broken. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. Breakfast was over. The truth was served. The house felt too clean, too quiet, the kind of quiet that settles after a storm clears out all the debris. I sat at the kitchen table with a manila folder in front of me. Divorce papers Tony, my cousin/lawyer, had drafted overnight. They looked ordinary, like any stack of documents, but they carried more weight than the walls around me. When Claire walked in, her eyes were puffy, her voice small. You already did this. Preparation is my love language, I said, sliding the papers toward her. Consider it closure with formatting. She sat down, staring at her name printed beside mine for what felt like the last time. I can't believe it's ending like this. I shrugged. I didn't pick the ending. You wrote it, one lie at a time. She looked at me through tears. Mark, please. I held up a hand. Don't. We've said enough. This is the quiet part now. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she picked up the pen, signed her name, and pushed the papers back. Lucy had come by earlier. She waited by the door, silent witness to the inevitable. When it was done, she placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. You sure you're okay? I nodded. I've got pancakes, closure, and a sister-in-law who can cook next time. Claire stood, clutching her tote bag like it might save her. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be, I said, opening the door. Just don't reuse the excuse. Your sister's booked for breakfast indefinitely. She hesitated, then walked out, the sound of her heels fading into the distance. And for the first time in months, the silence that followed didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. After she left, the house finally exhaled. Not the suffocating kind of quiet, the peaceful kind, the kind that hums like a sigh of relief. I stood in the living room, looking around at the space that had once been cluttered with her shoes, her laughter, her half-finished projects. It felt bigger now. Or maybe it was just lighter, like the air had decided it didn't need to carry her perfume anymore. I poured myself a coffee, took it to the porch, and watched the sunlight stretch across the yard. Funny thing about freedom, it doesn't come with fireworks. It shows up in tiny, quiet ways. No more checking your phone. No more pretending to believe someone's half-hearted story. No more Thursday night reruns of Helping My Sister. My phone buzzed. Marcus, job's done. I texted back. Both renovation and marriage. He replied in seconds. Congrats. Which one was harder? I grinned. The drywall had fewer cracks. That got a laughing emoji. Typical Marcus. Practical, loyal, the kind of guy who could build a house and a punchline in the same day. Weeks passed. Lucy stopped by one Saturday with groceries, pancake mix, syrup, and that look only people with both sympathy and respect can give. We talked, we laughed, we even joked about the absurdity of it all. She said, guess her home repairs are on hold indefinitely. I smirked. Guess so. I finally fixed something that was really broke in me. Life didn't turn cinematic after that. No dramatic music, no sudden happiness montage. Just small, good things, mornings without lies, nights without questions, peace that didn't need permission to exist. Sometimes, people ask me about her. I just smile and say, she's somewhere out there, probably helping someone else's sister. But whenever I hear someone mention working late or family emergencies, I can't help but grin and ask, with her sister or her boss? Because trust me, breakfast told me everything dinner never did. And in that clean, quiet house with a stack of legal papers tucked neatly in a drawer, I finally felt something that had been missing for a long, long time myself.